2022, San Diego, US of A. It's a great pleasure for us to be here. It's been an amazing first day. When I look around now, it's quite overwhelming that this has happened. So thanks so much for coming. We've got a very simple question. We've worked out the answer already, but we won't spoil it. Can we work our way to be 100% renewably powered? That is the question we're going to ask. And I have an amazing panel of people. And we've got an extra amazing member of our panel here. Jordan Brompton from Myenergi, which is an incredible company we follow very closely on the Fully Charged show from there, more or less your inception, right at the very beginning. And they've now become this real success story in the UK. And I'll let Jordan explain what they do. Claire is from Octopus, an energy company in the UK that are truly groundbreaking. They're making an enormous difference, particularly now when we're desperately in need of some assistance for normal people in normal houses that are paying mind-boggling increases in electricity costs. And then we have Les Mood, who is from GreenTech, and he does all sorts of solar stuff much better than we can ever do in the UK because he's got lots of sun where he lives, and I'm quite jealous. And at the far end, the man who drives me like a slave driving bully, he's a thug. Yeah, he's amazing. He is the reason we're all here today. People come up to me and say, oh, it's amazing you've done this. And I know back in my mind, I have done very little to get this happening. So it's very much down to Dan Caesar, who is CEO of the Fully Charged Show Limited. So that's our panel, ladies and gentlemen. So let's start. Well, we could do what we said we'd do. I'll go down the row. Can we be 100% renewably powered? Jordan?
Yes.
Thank you. Claire?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yep. Dan?
How quickly? That's what I'm interested in.
Yes. So so there we go, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for coming along. We've answered that. It is, yes, very much how quickly. Jordan, just explain a bit what you do and just the things you've just been telling me then, what impact what you've done has had already on the UK grid. It is remarkable.
Yeah, so we're a tech company. We design and manufacture eco-smart home products. So in particular, we were the first to bring out an EV charger that diverts surplus power from solar to your car battery, so you can have essentially a completely green free charge, which is amazing. It's called the Zappi product, and then we've got our Eddy device, which diverts surplus power to heat your hot water. So you can essentially use the solar panel on your roof, use our little smart gizmos and the app, and divert the power wherever you want and essentially be off-grid as much as possible, but while being on-grid for when the sun's not shining. And you can also then tie up with a green energy tariff, and we work with Octopus, so that if you don't have solar and the sun's not shining, you still can put renewable power into your home and into your products. But inside the products as well, we've also tried to future-proof it, because we feel like it's very important to offer what we call in the UK demand-side response, and I won't start going crazy, but it just basically means that you can flex the grid. So when there's peaks and troughs in demand, you can ramp up the power to your car or turn down the power to your hot water and basically flex in for these sort of services, and the grid will pay you as a homeowner to do that. And to give you an example, in the UK we've got about 45,000 connected customers at the moment and growing day by day, and that alone has enough power capacity to shut down 2 fossil fuel power stations. So just by having renewable energy on your home and smart tech in the house, you can actually make big waves. And just 1 million homes, literally with solar panels and our kit, would be 7 gigawatts of power. And the biggest power station in the UK is 4 gigawatts of power. So we just believe that homes play a massive part in the future of energy, homes with renewable energy, so solar, heat pumps, things like that. So we're just playing our little part in the renewable revolution. So, sorry, I took a lot of time.
That's good. That's very good. I mean, it's critically important. I just want to quickly say, I don't want to advertise Jordan's products too much. Other items are available on the market, but I have a Zappi charger and all the kit that she's been talking around my house, and I managed to do 41 days in a row this year where we didn't use one electron from the national grid. It was all self-generated and stored or used in the house. And it was only my record, I was going for longer than that, but my record was destroyed when my daughter came home in a mild Nissan Leaf. When I wasn't there, and it was a cloudy day and the batteries were low, she plugged it in, drained the batteries and used electricity from the grid. She ruined my life, that young woman. because I could have got at least 42 days, I'm sure. But anyway, Claire, explain what Octopus does, because it's such a new company with such a different attitude to to how we use electricity and power.
Yeah, so Octopus started about 8 years ago in the UK. Can you hear me? Can you hear me now? Oh, yeah.
That's better.
Thank you. So Octopus started about 8 years ago in the UK, and with a vision to make energy cheaper, greener, and more accessible, and to put technology at the heart of that. And so one important part of what we've done at Octopus is, as an energy retailer, make it much easier for our customers to come on board with us, and we have a system which makes it much easier for the company itself to sort of manage those customers. So we put customers at the heart of what we do, and then in the context of renewables, we're a 100% renewable energy company, but also thinking about the technologies that are going to enable, like, us as consumers, so you and me and our neighbours, to actually engage with the grid. So definitely kind of picking up from what Jordan was saying, we think about how any battery device or energy storing device can help the grid more broadly. So I think that's one of the things that we think about a lot now, and we put a lot of focus on, is not just like energy is expensive at different times of the day or night because of when it's generated and when we're using it, but how do we as individuals and how do we help customers actually participate in that grid, what we call flexibility, picking up on what Jordan said. So yes, we have tariffs and services now which mean that you can pay a different amount for your energy at different times of day. So, overnight when it's windy, for example, in the UK, there's often an oversupply of energy because everyone's asleep and factories are shut. But if we can charge EVs at that time, so we can be smart about it, we can send a signal to those vehicles to charge. We actually make those vehicles batteries on wheels, places to store energy. So yeah, we'll probably get onto vehicle to grid, which has been one of my big focuses for the last 4 years, which takes us to the next step, which is about taking energy out of the car batteries and put it back on. But I think, thinking about flexibility is really, really important when we talk about this topic.
Brilliant, thank you, Claire. Les, just explain to us to me what you do, because I know what everybody else here does. It's got a bit of an advantage.
Is this okay? Yeah. So if I describe myself in one way, I would say I'm a community builder. I create content, and I kind of mimic or try to be like you. So I'm happy to be on the stage with you. But I create content as one. But I'm a public affairs officer for a company called SignWatts, and it's a power electronics startup, not exactly in stealth mode, but much like she was just saying about the vehicle to grid. We're working on vehicle to grid technology, really taking the progress and the technology development that's happened in the solar industry and putting it inside of electric vehicles, and really re-architecting the way electric vehicles work, as well as charging stations and charging infrastructure. So that's what I do mostly on the public affairs side. But in my view, as far as what I think it would take to do the grid renewably 100%, I think it really needs to be a focus on being local, on a community level, and in a way that empowers consumers, individuals, businesses, and local consumers to be able to be the center of the grid. And I think one way to do that is with electric vehicles, batteries, and home energy management, and that sort of thing. So I think really the key to the technology is going to be the technology to enable the power to be local, and for us as companies and us as consumers to take a community approach, a bottom-up approach to the way that we deploy energy.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Les. Dan, what do you reckon?
Well, I mean, from my point of view, we're very lucky at Fully Charged because we get a ringside seat on all these technologies, and we try and bring more and more each year. We come back to the US, we're doing a show in Canada, etc. Because our job really is communicators, and we have to repeat ourselves a lot. And Robert often says now that the difficulty is not technological, it's psychological. It's actually communicating and getting people to realize that these technologies are viable, they're here and now, and actually there's a lot more technology coming. So that's what interests me, actually, is how it all fits together. Yeah. How quickly we can do it, what's the mix going to be between nuclear, wind, solar, batteries, hydro, all those different technologies. That fascinates me, but our job as communicators is to get as many people to watch the Fully Charged show, get as many people to come to Fully Charged Live, and then introduce them to all these experts.
Yeah. I mean, it's been a really interesting thing that we've witnessed in the UK show, that, you know, when we do a talk with maybe someone from Tesla and someone from GM, and we're talking about electric cars and new models of electric cars, we get a great audience, it's not a problem. But I know there was a joke a couple of years ago because Dan was presenting a talk about and a panel about boilers, about central heating boilers in the UK, and we're all a bit snide. We're going, who's going to go and talk about boilers? It's so exciting. That theatre, you could not get any more people in. It was packed to the absolute walls. It was standing. I went along to watch. I couldn't see anything. It was just a whole load of backs of people. You know, it's a critically important part of what we're seeing. And in a way, electric cars opened that door. And as we all know, if we've got an electric car, you get an electric car and you go, oh, this is really nice. I like driving this. Where does electricity come from? Can I charge it myself with my solar? Oh my God, I can actually produce my own gasoline in a way on the roof and just put it straight in the car and you don't have to go anywhere else. You know, that side of it is a revelation. And I think the next step is vehicle to grid is this kind of it's a bit of a holy grail, but it clearly is going to make a difference. And if we talk to people who run our national grid in the UK and they go, it is potentially, once you've got like 4, 5, 6 million electric vehicles, and I'm not just talking cars, buses, trucks, you know, as you're doing here, school buses, an amazing idea to electrify. Those school buses are sitting still for about 90% of the time, so they're quite useful. I'll shut up.
It's good.
I did have a question, yes, which was along those lines. So the idea that, in fact, the technology works, and it's the psychology that is the challenge. So do you ever come up against sceptical people who go, no, it's too complicated for me, I can't deal with...
Do you know what? The tide's turned a little bit.
Right.
People... It was back in the day when we was a start-up, we had to bang down the doors to explain what we do and who we were. Now I find that the mainstream, mainstream consciousness is shifting. People want renewable energy. People, especially because of the energy crisis, especially what's going on in the UK, it's crazy. People are looking for alternatives. And I've worked in solar for many, many years, and it used to be a hard sell. Now, I think a study came out. We've only got like 1 million homes in the UK at the moment with solar on the roof. This year, The Guardian did a report that 1.9 million want to add solar this year. So, and obviously the order book for the OEMs for the cars are ridiculous. Like, no one can get one. The waiting list is so long. So it's more of a supply problem that's the issue. I think people have woken up to it.
Is it worth mentioning that there is actually sun in the UK? Just so people are aware that we are putting solar panels on our roofs for a reason. Although you don't need that much sun, but we do have some too.
Yeah, we've just had 2 days in the UK that broke all records for heat. We've never experienced anything like it before.
Yeah,
and our record...
A little thing called a climate crisis, isn't there?
I've read about that. I'm sure it's a hoax. But yeah, no, and also I think it's important to point out we've been keeping quite accurate records of our temperature since about 1604, so quite a long time back, and we've reached 40 degrees C, which I don't even know what that is in old school money like you use here, Fahrenheit. It's a lot of Fahrenheit. It's a big one.
We've talked a lot about the homes, but obviously one thing that the UK is doing really fast is decarbonising, with wind.
Yes.
I don't know, do you know a lot about that, Octopus, about how much wind is going onto the grid now?
Yeah, there's a huge amount. I realised that you've got to turn on the mic. That was the issue. No, I hadn't turned it on, which is the classic, as an engineer.
This is someone who works in electronics at a very high level.
It's quite, thank you. So thinking about, the grid and renewables is a really, it's another way of looking at it around actually how is the grid going to be able to do this, how's the grid going to cope, and actually that, onshore wind is a brilliant way of generating energy, and thinking about that interconnection is also really important. So I think where we are in the UK, we are interconnected to Europe. We may not be, politically anymore. That's a topic maybe not for this audience, so maybe you guys feel, there's a few knowing nods, it's a bit awkward. But we're physically interconnected, and what that means is that actually, more is more in all the countries that are interconnected, and I think it's really fascinating in the US actually around what's going on with interconnections between the state versus Texas. I'm really fascinated by you've got East, West, and ERCOT. I think that's really, really interesting. So as we see more wind going on and more solar farms at grid scale, interconnection is really important, as well as flexibility and, you know, where you can store all that energy. So yeah, so really those three things, isn't it? It's like interconnections, flexibility and storage. Those are the things that are going to enable this, and I think it's at both the domestic level and at the grid scale level, all those things are super important.
And I mean, there are, correct me if I'm wrong, Joe, but there are days, because I've got so many apps and things.
Your house is like glowing, I think, from outer space. It's like all the connections. Earlier someone said to me, you guys have got 3-phase connections at home, haven't you? And I was like, no, not really in the UK, but Robert does.
Yes, I do.
Which tells you a lot about all the amazing stuff that Robert's got in his house.
But no, I was going to say about offshore wind, because it is it's that wonderful thing where a huge majority of the people in the UK just you can't see it, it's not outside your door. Even if you go to a beach, you sometimes can see a row of wind turbines on the horizon.
Right, yeah, well I live out in Suffolk, like right on the east coast, and you can just about see the massive offshore wind farms, and you don't realise it's there, but I mean there's a huge amount of offshore wind that's being built at the moment, and again that's about like landing it rather than building it, so I think the will is there, right?
You must have some stats on that. Well,
I follow it. So there are times when we've gone over 50%. So over 50% of all our generation, 50, not 50% is from wind, which is absolutely extraordinary.
There's a website in the UK. So I think the UK we're crap at most things, but we've actually done quite well with the energy system. We've had quite a free market, and that's led to some great innovators like Myenergi and Octopus. Yeah. But if you look at, there's a website, I think it's MyGridGB, and if you look back to 2012, coal was about 30% or something like that. 30 or 40%. And now we've got rid of coal completely and replaced that mainly with wind at this point. There are other things that we can add, but don't let anyone tell you that it's not possible here as well. You've got coasts, so much population along the coast, you've got so much sun, so much solar potential, and the complementarity between wind and solar, when you add batteries and energy storage as well. So America's got that, so don't let anyone tell you it can't be done here, it can.
So, you know, this makes me think of the X-Links project. Are you up with the X-Links? No. X-Links. So this is about thinking at a much bigger scale, I think, than we've been thinking in the past. Again, how do you get to 100% renewables? So the X-Links project is going to put a huge solar farm with battery associated in Morocco, and they're going to build, I think it's like 10.5 gigawatt of production, which will give 3.5 gigawatt of supply to the UK over, I think, 20 hours a day. So they'll be like generating, storing, and then the storage will be what actually like pushes energy from Morocco to the UK, and that's 3,800 kilometres of cable. So don't let people tell you that it's not possible to take from where it's being generated to where it needs to go.
It's also, I quite like it, some of you may know the names of our counties, but I just love the fact that it goes from Morocco, which just sounds so exotic and amazing, to North Devon, and that's where it comes on shore in the UK. In a very
interconnections.
Yeah,
it's about those interconnections again, isn't it? It's like how you land it, and what you do with it when it gets there.
So, Liz, I mean, the role of solar in the UK, in the USA, is huge. I kind of feel that's where the first time I ever saw a solar panel was in America. So, and in fact, the first time I can remember seeing loads of wind turbines. I think there's a road, we filmed on it, there's a road outside Los Angeles with thousands of really old-fashioned wind turbines. I don't know if they're still there. It was used a lot in movies in the 80s, but you'd see it in the background. There'd be Tom Cruise driving a red Porsche past loads of wind turbines.
Yeah, absolutely. And in fact, in Kern County, where I'm from, in Bakersfield area, the wind capital. The wind capital of the U.S. is in Kern County. It's Tehachapi. So it's very windy there. The apple pie is also very good. So when you're driving through and you see a bunch of wind turbines, think apple pie, and you'll be happy. So, but yeah, there's a lot of wind turbines in Kern County. And California, though, is obviously super bright with the sun. It's also hot in a lot of climates. So there's a need in a lot of regions where it's hot for a lot of air conditioning, and that's good to have that complementary sun as well. But early on, the net metering, speaking of interconnections, and the utility grid opportunity to work with the utility to store the energy with the utility has really been instrumental in the development of the market here in California so far.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's really the big question in a sense. You know, if we forget, I think it's a temporary state we're in now with supply problems and material shortages. I think we'll overcome that. But is it possible? This is a question I have no answer to. Is it to build enough batteries for us to use them as that buffer. You know, just the physical scale of it. There, I just went to see we're filming a huge battery project just outside Oxford, which is a combination of lithium-ion and flow batteries. And it's a big industrial installation. It's huge. You climb up ladders and things are going 24 hours a day. But it powers half of Oxford. It can do like that in a split second. So when you see that, you go, this is fantastic. But how many? We need thousands of those. You know?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, energy storage is really going to be diverse, including pump storage. Pump storage is really our #1 source of energy storage with water. I think that's important as well, to not use entirely lithium alone. We have enough just to the demand with electric vehicles. So in my view, yeah, we need those iron flow batteries. We need a lot of energy storage outside of lithium, but also energy storage.
What is it?
It loves you. It loves you.
I am not into it. No.
It's actually a Russian drone.
Could be. It's gone.
It's because couldn't get here.
I think I might have made it angry.
Yeah, sorry everyone out there.
It's beautiful. Lovely little
Not in my face.
On the subject of batteries, though, it's about supply chain, isn't it? At the end of the day, and the reality is, there's plenty of the materials required. So lithium is extremely common.
Yeah.
Some of these things that are called rare metals aren't that rare at all. In fact, they're kind of misnamed. And obviously, we're working cobalt out of the battery system entirely. But you've got. In America, you've got the leading company in this sector, which is incredible, but I also have to say the leading country is actually China. And they have spent decades getting ready for this moment and building supply chain, access to all those materials and actually manufacturing batteries there. So in the UK at the moment, getting electric cars is hard, but you can get Teslas because they're made in Shanghai, you can get Polestars because they're made in China, you can get MGs because they're made in China. So you're seeing a very real effect of what policy does, and I'm glad to say with the Inflation Reduction Act, it seems to me that America is waking up to the opportunity. You've got to have your own battery factories here, you've got to have a vertical integration of all those things. I think that will come, because I think America wants to win that kind of, it's almost like a sort of global race, isn't it? It's like a space race, but for renewables.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. Yeah, and in terms of batteries, I think like the first wave of like the battery war has like been won by China. So I think we now need to look to the next 10 to 15 to 20 years. What are we all going to do in our own bits of the world to secure the supply? So I think you're right. I think looking at not just the factories that are there now, but it's about the supply chains, and also it's about the technologies around like where we source materials from. It's going to be really important to answering this question. So again, I can get quite nerdy and geeky about the tech and the materials and where they come from. But actually, each part of the supply chain right now is what's going to build that. And also the other thing is like storage technologies. So thinking about pump storage, we've got like gravity storage. There's some really interesting technologies coming. So if someone says to you, "There's not enough lithium and we can't mine it and it's terribly polluting," it's not the only storage technology. It's just the most prevalent today. So
Heat storage.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
And flow batteries for long duration storage. Really
I just want to, we haven't got very long left, but I just want, if anyone's got a question for the panel, there is a microphone in the middle aisle there. Oh, there's two mics, there's one over there as well. But we haven't got that long.
I think just want to mention one thing is energy reduction as well. I know this is obviously a land where you've got a lot of big vehicles, a lot of big houses, so I'm treading very warily when I say this, but it's quite muggy outside, but it's bloody freezing in here, and I'm thinking, okay, well, how is that possible? Shouldn't it be a nice temperature here? It could be 3 or 4 degrees warmer, right? And there's a lot of energy being used to cool this building unnecessarily, I would say. So I don't want to put that in.
So you're going to go turn the thermostat down?
Where's the thermostat? Who had the thermostat?
Yes, sir. Oh, there might be a switch on it. Is it? Can we get power to that mic?
It's on.
Yeah, there you go.
I see up here we have innovation represented, we have the energy retailers represented, we have social media folks representing. I'm not seeing the local power companies. What are the obstacles to California going 100% solar or wind combination?
Yeah, probably a question for you, Les. What are the obstacles? Yeah. Well, he lives here. I could make something up, but it wouldn't be very useful.
I wouldn't say the utilities are the obstacles. No, I think it's just it's an adoption curve. At this point, we're seeing mass adoption, but the affordability and the access needs to increase. Financing options for low income, but also I think it's important to note that not everybody owns a home. So the question is, how do you provide everyone with renewable energy? And I think the role of electric vehicles in moving that energy around by becoming part of the grid is an important part of that. But I think we need more technology advancement, lower prices, better financing, and we're going to have to find ways for the utilities and the public to continue to work together.
You probably need some insurgent companies, like you need an Octopus in America. I know that's not easy because it's regulated, you know, all the rest of it, but the market seems to be too static without any real disruption and innovation. I think if you threw a disruption bomb in with someone like Octopus, it would change things. People would up their game, because at the moment they're just too safe, conservative, and this is coming, and people need to be ready for it.
Yeah, we're in Houston, so we're in
I didn't know that.
Yeah, did you not? Oh, you heard it here first, guys. So yeah, so we're in Texas because ERCOT is a really interesting place to innovate and learn, and yeah, we're coming.
Oh, there we go.
There you go.
You might have an Octopus account. Sir, question?
Just a quick question. I'm just wondering if/when we could see some Myenergi products available in North America.
Can you hear?
I couldn't quite hear you, sir.
He's
Sorry.
asking for Myenergi products in the US.
There, yes.
That's why we're here, because we're just sort of scoping it out. You know, we want to, honestly, in 2023, I think we'll be over here. We're just going through UL certification with our products, and we would be looking, one thing that we do as well, we manufacture all ourselves, but we would be looking to set up a manufacturing facility in the States somewhere as well. So, it's so complicated because it's so different state by state. So we've got a lot to figure out, but it is the ambition. So
You've got a pallet out the back. That'd be brilliant. Like, see me around the back.
Yeah.
I've got a charger.
Yes, I rather foolishly did little commercials at the top of our podcast, where I was so excited that Jordan and Myenergi would be exhibiting
Just
their
making it
products
up
here.
as it goes.
And I was making it up, because I knew Jordan was coming, so I just assumed that Myenergi were here, so that was my bad.
It's because I don't want to overpromise
Yeah.
to deliver. We've got a lot to figure out yet. We've done that in the past, and that hurts.
I was doing a bit of over-promising. Madam, yes. Oh, over there, I beg your pardon. Yes, sir.
So I fly into LA and I see thousands of acres of warehouses, and none of them have solar.
Boom.
Yeah. No, we have exactly the same problem in the UK, where there are. I mean, I think it is in the hundreds of thousands of hectares of space that is the roofs of buildings that can easily have solar on. And they don't. We're starting to do it now. And
One thing that's a problem is upskilling. We need to really upskill a nation. So we've got plenty of electricians, but to actually fit solar panels, the inverters, renewable energy tech, they need to go through a whole new level of training, and we simply don't have enough for the sheer demand in the UK alone. So imagine what it's going to be like over here. So if you're wanting to switch careers and you're wanting to upskill, it's a safe bet to get into, because we're going to need an army essentially.
But every one of those big boxes should be powering itself.
Yeah.
As simple as that.
And there are examples in the UK where there are housing developments. There's one being built at the moment. We went to see its first iteration. It was 220 houses, and that one doesn't generate more power than it consumes, but it's about equal. It doesn't it uses a tiny amount of power from the grid. The new development, which is much bigger, it's over 2,000 houses, is a power station. So it has its own. They're building the substation at the moment because the national grid are gone. This is going to generate far more power than it consumes. We need to be able to take that power away. For that, we need some heavy-duty installations, and that is how we should be building all these buildings. All the new buildings. This building should have more solar on it than we can possibly use.
We need to make it a law. You know, the UK was on about making it a law, wasn't it? That every new home had to have solar, every new home has to have an EV charger. I think that's what we need to be banging on at our politicians.
That is the case in California now, new homes and commercial. And then to answer your question, a lot of the buildings are not owned by the tenant, and so there's these issues with who owns the solar and who pays for it. The tenant doesn't want to pay for it, and oftentimes the owner doesn't either if they're not the one to save the money. So you've got to get creative there.
Yeah. we got one. I think we are slightly over, so I don't want to. But we'll do. Yes.
Yeah, I appreciate that you guys mentioned both energy reduction and the psychological aspect to this. So I'm wondering if you have any tips for making it appealing to reduce energy, because like all this tech is very sexy, right? And somehow talking about reducing energy is less. So I think Myenergi is working on some of that. But what tips do you have for sort of making this more of a feature of the conversation?
It's a good, very, very good question. I mean, I feel slightly awkward because I'm an Octopus customer, and I feel quite aroused. I'm an old man. Things change as the years pass. I feel quite aroused when I see the size of my bill, as in it's very small. So, but I feel bad because Octopus are helping me achieve that. So it doesn't,
How to follow that? Yeah. So.
Sorry.
You're not sorry. It's not sorry. Look at that face. So one of the things that we do, Octopus, is to make it easy, accessible, and simple. So gamification. I think we've been hearing about gamification for years. But actually, we're really in that world now where you need to show people how much energy they're using and how they're using it, so they can make a choice and make a decision. And I think that so some of the stuff we've just started doing in the UK, for example, is really groundbreaking in terms of taking data from smart meters, which they're not that smart in the UK at the moment. They send one signal every half an hour to a centralised data centre, which then might, a day or two later, if you're lucky, get to where you need it. So we've actually come out with our own device to actually send data every 10 seconds from the home to our cloud-based system, so we can show it to you on your phone. So I think, thinking about giving you information and data and making decisions, and similarly with the Myenergi system, giving you that visual of what you're using and how you're using it, then it's easy to make the decision, and it's easy to know what to do, and it doesn't feel like it's a punishment. It feels like you're proactively, engaging in how you're using energy.
And I think teaching the little ones, like teaching the younger generation as well. I like to do that, get the kids engaged.
Yeah.
Well, just linking the value of money and energy all the time. What's in the battery? How much is it worth? What's it worth when it's filled up overnight? What's
it worth now?
What's it worth now? I think an education campaign, actually seeing that when air is escaping, your hot air is escaping your building, or cold air that you've used energy to create, that's money going out through the cavities in your house, and we need to show that, and we're here to constantly communicate that.
So let's do one last question.
Excuse me. So one of the biggest impediments I've seen in America to doing things is not invented here. Oh, we want to do electric buses like you do in China. That's China. You can't do that in America.
Right.
We want to do what you're doing in England. No, we can't do that because that's England. I mean, how do we overcome the not invented here, or the NIMBYism, so to speak?
That's good, yeah, that's a good one. That's beyond my remit. I don't know, how do you...
I mean, the flip side to that is England is really good at inventing stuff. We've got some amazing countries, but we cannot mass produce it. I mean, what Jordan's doing, Myenergi, is quite unusual, taking the great idea and sort of manufacturing it. But it is tricky. I mean, you do have Tesla here. I mean, I'm surprised Tesla isn't the talk of the town with everyone. I know there has a leader that is not popular with everyone, but what they achieved is extraordinary. I don't know why it's not embraced. I mean, that is an American success story. There should be more. I'm sure there will be more, but it is difficult.
I think one thing that I've noticed from, we've set up all around the world because it's similar in other countries, and we really have done quite well in Germany, and that's quite rare for a British company to be able to sell technology into Germany. But how we did that was we set up a subsidiary, so we set up a business out there with it's got a German partner, and we're looking to put in manufacturing there, support there, so that the country can embrace it and feel like it's their own as well and get involved. And as long as I think people are quite warm, and if you're providing local jobs and innovation, because we'd always listen to the local markets and adapt the products to the local markets as well. I think it's about bringing everybody on the journey.
I just wanted to echo that, exactly the same. We want to find businesses that can join Octopus locally, because whilst essentially we have all this great tech and we have real experience, we have real knowledge, what we don't have is the local knowledge. So whether that's about what the grid rules or the regulatory environment is, or what the customer requirements are, or what it's like day to day. So I think that's the most important thing. Exactly what Jordan said is actually, we want to bring our experience, but we don't want to force it on people. We want to make it tailored for the right the market and the right people. So making it local in that way is going to be really, really important. So hopefully we can bring our knowledge, but bring it in a way that works for the US.
And I just want to, I think we're going to have to end here, but I just want to remind everybody that the lithium-ion battery was invented in 1972 in Oxford, England, by an American professor who's still, I believe he's still alive, Professor John Goodenough, who's still working on battery development today, extraordinary man. But it was developed in Oxford back then, and everybody, he went and showed it to people. They went, "Why on earth would you want a battery you can recharge?" And a person from Sony, the Sony Corporation, popped in and went, "We're quite interested in a battery you can recharge." And they bought the rights, and the rest is history. And we didn't develop that technology back in the 1970s, which is a classic case of British.
I've got an even best one. I promise it'll be really quick. So in the 1800s, there was a professor in the UK, in Cornwall, and he realised there was lithium in the water in Cornwall. And he wrote a paper that said, "I found all this lithium in this water, which is awesome, but we haven't got any use for it, which is a bit awkward." And it just got shelved for hundreds of years.
Yes.
So again, like it goes all the way back.
Yeah.
And here we are.
Because we're now extracting lithium from old tin mines in Cornwall. There is a company that is doing that. So that is, on that very obscure note, if you're ever in Cornwall,
At least we got away from you being aroused. At least we got past that. Because we wouldn't want that to be the last thing we remember from this session.
Try and forget that moment. I apologise profusely. I'm very sorry. But it's been, well, a lovely... Can you please give our fantastic panel a really big round of applause? And thank you so much for attending.